Welcome to Financial Planning Explained. I'm your host, Mike Menninger, certified financial planner, owner and founder of Menninger and Associates Financial Planning. I'm pleased to have as my guest today, Joe Trave. Joe, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you, Michael.
Joe is the founder, owner, CEO, president, everything that we all like to call ourselves.
Custodian.
Right, there you go. Of Village Handcrafted Cabinetry. Is that correct?
Correct.
Village Handcrafted Cabinetry in Lansdale, Pennsylvania. It's great. I really am excited to have Joe here, very open, conversive about what it's like to be a business owner. And what we're trying to do is apply all the different areas of financial planning, which are cash management, tax planning, risk management or insurance planning, investment planning, retirement planning, and estate planning, but applying it to the headspace of a business owner and everything that we're going to be talking about. Just we talked for a couple minutes before we sat down, and it's remarkable the similarities. It just so happens that the business units are different. So again, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So Joe, tell me a little bit about your company.
So I started in 1999 in my parents' backyard. So I grew up in the restaurant business with my family. I was passionate about woodworking through high school. Went to tech school for a year in high school. And I realized that that was my passion. So I said to my father about a year into the restaurant business, I was 21, 22. I said, I need to make a change. And we had built this small shop in the backyard, he and I. And he said, give it a shot. You're young enough. You don't have children yet. I was just getting married. And so I gave it a shot. I would, I've often told this story. I would fill out a sheet of loose leaf back in that time, put my name, my number at the bottom and my name, and slice the little, tear offs.
Oh yeah.
Hang it up at Wawa, right? Or at the gym or at the grocery store. And that's how I started. Really pretty quickly along, I had a backlog of maybe a month or two and then 3 months. And, people would wait. And if you do good work, if you're honest and, you have a level of quality. And I was passionate about it, really passionate about it. So quickly the business grew out of the backyard in about 2 years, maybe 3, and took a space in Quakertown. I found a guy that was retiring, took his space, 5,000 square feet. He taught me the kitchen business, which is a whole nother animal in woodworking. And I learned that over the term of maybe 3 years with him. And then at the same time, my wife joined the business, my sister and my brother-in-law, we kind of partnered up. And so they, I was growing rapidly and I needed support in, obviously finance, bookkeeping. That was my sister. My wife was marketing and computer science major. So building systems out to track product and really market the business back in the day, kind of just in the infancy of the web, and developing websites. And my partner Gary, he was on the manufacturing side. So I went out and sold, designed, and started selling to builders. The company grew from 2004, I guess that was. We moved to Lansdale in 2006. We bought 25,000 square feet of factory space. Never thought we would fill that.
You bought it now. You were renting before, you bought it now.
We bought that building. We were there from 2006 to 2020, right around COVID. We then moved out of that space. I had about 25,000 square feet at that time, maybe 28. And we started renting 75. Well, we're at almost 75,000 square feet around the corner now in an old cannonball factory, which is pretty cool.
Cool.
I'm a history buff, so it's on Cannon Avenue. So Revolutionary War era building. So we are in that space, and we're still expanding. I'm taking another 5,000 square feet. We're about 100 people now.
Wow.
We're not only a regional brand now, we're a national brand. We're selling all over the country and outside of the country. And we would say we are ultra premium handmade furniture for your kitchen, for your closet, for your library. We build what other people can't build. So we have some of the best craftspeople in the country right here in Lansdale.
Interesting. So it's a lot of design. So it's you triggered something because it was right around the same time that my brother started a business doing granite.
Oh, well, we're very tied in with the granite
You have to
industry.
be.
Yeah.
You have to
So
be.
obviously every kitchen has stone tops,
Yep.
right? So,
Nowadays.
yep. So I've thought about actually adding stone to our repertoire, but we specialize. We are specialists. We have designers. We have 10 interior designers that are on staff that work with our we have trade partners, builders, remodelers, interior designers, kitchen designers, all throughout the country. So they are our trade partner. We're really B2B. We're more B2B than B2C.
Hmm.
So I realized quickly in the early days that if I networked to industry trade professionals, designers and builders, they're going to give me 10 projects a year as opposed to Mrs. Jones is going to do one project a year or one project every 10 years.
Right, exactly.
Right. So, so now the business, there's 400 accounts that we have nationwide that are producing large amounts of sales. And so the challenge in our business is you are only as good as your last delivery and installation, right? So the quality has to be maintained all the time. There is no letdown. Like you can't have an off day,
Yep.
right? Because that can get away from you really quickly.
So it's remarkable. I didn't even think about it until you just brought it up. The parallel and similarity that you have with my brother's business. And I remember speaking with a contractor who owns and operates a the concrete side,
Mm-hmm.
and we're talking about 2008, which I'm going to bring up. Oh yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and he said the trick is be the first one in and the first one out, and you're not left holding the money bag.
Mm-hmm.
The person who's the last one in is the granite, the cabinets, and the painters.
Yeah,
So
sure. The framers got their money.
right, exactly.
The insulators got their money.
How did
So
you survived 2008?
I have PTSD from 2000. Really, we didn't feel it in 2008. We felt it, so Bear Stoners fell in '06. 7, we were still fine. We were still growing. 8 was okay. It really didn't hit us until 9 and 10, and it really got hard in 11. So
Really?
yeah,
Why the delay?
because so our cycle time of projects could be 2 years, right? We often are brought in the early stages. Hey, here's a set of plans. We're going to develop this home. It's a year and a half build, so it's a long lead time, right? So,
You're towards the end.
and we're towards the end, correct? So we had a lot of projects. I mean, the business was growing rapidly at that time. Market starts to tank. The housing bubble burst. I personally was getting into financial trouble. I decided to put an addition on my house, put a pool in, right? You're spending money that you don't have. And I was young and foolish, right? So, it really hit us in 9 and 10, and we struggled. I mean, we went from, I think, 30 employees at the time in 2008, 9 to 12, and just hanging on. And I'll never forget having to lay people off around the holidays. It's brutal. It is brutal. It rips your soul out. And that was a really tough time. And that recession, I talked to builders that had been in the business for 40 and 50 years, and they said, I've never seen anything like this, right? We've seen, the dot-com bust of 91 or I'm sorry, of 2000, and then, another bust in 91 and 79, but nothing like the Great Recession.
Nope. So. And so it actually, the source of it was
Housing.
and lending to
people that couldn't afford those
right.
houses.
Yeah,
right?
can you fog a mirror? And we'll give you 110% mortgage.
You got it.
And so, that was the creation of the problem. And I know my brother got caught up in it because at the time, a lot of his business, a core of his business was for the builders.
Oh, yeah.
And
they were going under left.
They were going under left and right. And he left a lot of money on the street. It didn't take him down, but it certainly crippled him for a lot of years.
It crippled us for years. I feel like I don't remember coming up for air until 2014.
Yeah.
It took that long. It was almost 6 years. And, so the business was in it was just really hand to mouth. The bank came to us in 2010 and basically said, hey, we're calling your loans.
Right.
And I'm like, so you said to me, and I always, I struggle with bankers, and now I have a lot of bankers trying to call on me because we're growing, right? And we're profitable business, and they're saying, hey, we want to lend you money. I said, well, you want to lend me money when it's sunny out, and I need an umbrella, right?
Yeah.
He said, here's an umbrella. It's sunny. I said, I don't need it when it's sunny. I need it when it's raining, right? That line of credit is my lifeline when it's raining, not when it's sunny.
Right.
So we're all good when it's sunny out, right? But you need to have my back when it starts to rain. And so I'm definitely a more savvy business owner now than I was then. And you have to learn the hard way. There's no easy button, right? That taught me more than I think any part of my career was that 5 years.
Well, the same can also be said, and it's just human nature. You learn more from mistakes, and not implying that it was a mistake of yours. But you learn more from bad experiences than you do from good experiences.
Absolutely.
Because
without doubt, it's seared into your brain. You know, So I mean, that took us by 14. We really started to feel things were moving in the right direction. Right, housing was coming back. We were really heavy in the remodeling world for the whole span of the 25 years, 30 years. Remodeling has always been our bread and butter. New home construction for us is we work for high-end builders, high-end home builders that are developing a home for high net worth client. It's built for them, right? It's not the Toll Brothers or the Lennars of the world. We are not in that space. We can't compete in that space. Generally, they're imported cabinets, much lower end. It's just not what we can do.
Understood. Yeah. And that's, again, a lot of what my brother is doing. And he'd always worked better served in that particular thing because he had such a touch and a vision and the ability to do quality custom work.
Sure.
He picked up the cabinets, more of the frustration of he can control his schedule better than being at the mercy. He can't put down the granite until the cabinets are installed.
So why not sell cabinets at the same time?
Well, simply because then he can control his schedule.
Sure.
Because there's nothing worse than being prepared to go tomorrow to install and finding out tonight, oh, we're not ready yet.
Correct.
And so that, it's obviously adding a business unit and
sure,
there's some level of profitability, but when you're being jerked around with your schedule.
Yeah.
So anyway, so what I did is I took a look at the 6 different areas of financial planning. And what I'd like to be able to do is kind of interview you and have, it's like we were just doing here, on how you address these as a business owner. And the reality of it is that the interesting part, and I can appreciate it, is you're still Joe Trave. It just so happens that the business represents a lot of the revenue that you get, and you have a lot of control, but the business is the driver.
Oh, the business, without doubt, the driver. Especially since my wife has been, we've had this partnership, the 4 partners. My partners are 60, we are 50, so they'll probably retire before us, so there'll be a buyout at some point. But it is our sole income is this company.
Oh, of course.
Right? So, her and I mean, she is the director of marketing. So she has a 5-day-a-week job, right? So this business is the provider for our family.
Absolutely. Yeah. But the good news about it is that business owners have a lot of leverage to control the income and the taxes for their own personal, that a regular salaried employee does not have that control.
Yeah, unfortunately, a lot of business owners that I know don't utilize those tactics, right? Because they don't connect themselves with somebody like you that would help, strategize. Hey, how am I paying myself?
I know. And we had this discussion beforehand, and we don't want to trash accountants because they're an important role and mechanism. But it's remarkable, to your point, how many things that you can do if you're just made aware of them.
Yeah, I mean, we have a great, partnership with our CPA firm, local firm, but, large enough that, I got very good referrals to them. The issue is that I just don't feel that they're tax strategists, right? So I feel like they, it's their job to make sure that you are compliant, right? But compliance is one thing, but there's also strategy that is not spoken of, right?
And that's where we also differ. And that's one of the things that we talk about as far as tax planning is we don't do taxes. We do tax planning, which there is overlap with the accountants, but we're two very different things. Mostly they're taking all of your stuff and doing it. We're taking a look at it and looking forward and saying, how can we make this more efficient?
Yeah. And I think that's really critical, Michael, is that, a lot of business owners think, my accountant, he'll take care of this.
You'd be surprised.
And because I'm that person, right? Until I started to dive in and bring in a fractional CFO and talk to other business owners and say, hey, how are you strategizing? And they're saying, I've created my own insurance company. I'm like, tell me more about that, right? There's a lot of options out there for you as a business owner. You have to obviously do this within the law, right? Within the tax code. But there's a lot of strategies that even I don't know about that I am interested in. And at 50, I'm starting to say, hey, in 10 years, I want to really start to slow down.
Oh, yeah. Trust me.
So I need to plan for that now.
Well, it's interesting, and we're going to take a break here in just one moment. You just triggered one of my favorite slogans, is he who knows the rules of the game the best has an edge in the game. And within the realm of all the tax laws, there's a lot of rules that you can allow the rules to work for you as opposed to you working for the rules and doing it legally.
Yeah.
So
And
I need to leave off on that. Stay tuned. We'll be back with you in just a few moments.
Do you keep up regularly with your investments? Where exactly are your hard-earned dollars going? Are you financially prepared for an emergency?
I'm Mike Menninger, founder of Menninger & Associates Financial Planning. We believe that education and knowledge are powerful, and we want our clients to understand why we are making the recommendations that we make. It's your money, and you deserve to know where it's going, because it's not how much you make, it's how much you keep. So call us today to discuss your financial concerns. Welcome back to Financial Plan and Explain, and I'm pleased to still have Joe Trave here. This has been a terrific conversation so far. We're kind of talking about his business, how he got started, and where we're going. Now we're going to start going through some kind of interview questions to try to tie his business to the 6 areas of financial planning, starting with cash management. So I generated some questions in advance. So running a custom cabinetry business must require obviously close attention to cash flow, and it doesn't even require a cabinetry business. Running any business,
right?
You need to manage cash flow. How do you manage the ebbs and flows with income and expenses? I suppose it's a little easier now, but how did you handle it compared to when you were struggling, call it in 2010 and 11?
So this is a loaded question, right? Because as the business scaled, we're heading in that $15 to $20 million range in revenue. We were able to bring on some smarter people along the way, and not that I don't want that to sound bad. Not smarter, just the next level of talent to help us strategize. So we were a cash basis business from inception, right? Cash in, cash out.
Right.
Cash in, cash out. Our cycle time could be 2 months, 3 months for a project. So our new firm 3 years ago said you really need to convert to accrual. All right. So because you don't know if you're making or losing money, right? Because yes, cash might be good this week, but you didn't produce the product fully, so you have more cost, right? So that's a whole nother accounting,
Yeah,
I don't want to get into that. But the cash flow, my wife, she runs some pretty complex software systems that she's built for the company that help us cash flow and do cash flow analysis. So when we land a project, we can take a 3-month look at how the cash is going to look on that particular project, right? And then we can culminate it with dashboards to say, okay, next week we should bring in X because we're going to land this job and we're going to ship this job and we're going to close out this job. So at the end of the day, we should have Y coming into the business, right?
At these points.
Correct. And I can look at that for the next 3 months and project cash flow. And it's evolved into a pretty sophisticated system that bankers have looked at and said, wow, you guys Okay, those types of projections help us get financing from banks, get investment. Maybe private equity one day is interested in our business. They want to see those types of projections.
Well, you know why? Because they know you have your act together as a CEO.
Getting there. Still working at it.
Trust me, I know. You know why?
Every day.
The higher the bar, the harder it is to reach it, and you always, every time you get close, you raise the bar. And trust me, I get it.
Yeah.
So interesting question, because we're running into the time of the tariffs.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
Has there been any impact on you and your business? For instance, I guess maybe thinking soup to nuts. You have to buy the materials, you have to buy the tools, you have to buy the machines, and labor, you don't buy labor per se.
Mm-hmm.
But if inflation goes up, the labor costs must go up, or else they're going to look for alternative work to cover their cost of living. So how did inflation that was just totally out of control 3 or 4 years ago impact you? And now how are tariffs?
All right. Really good question and really interesting story. COVID hits, people are home for a year, right? Their discretionary income goes through the roof because they're not out spending money, they're not going to concerts, they're not traveling. All right, so next thing you know, they're saying, oh, let's do the kitchen. I'm in the house. I want a home office. The closet, so our business explodes. We grow 40% over a year and a half. Capacity issues, we're growing, challenges. However, then material cost skyrocketed, right? Lumber was the biggest
1,600% increase.
Correct. And we were talking 21. It was really late 20 into 21. So lumber skyrockets. Not only does it skyrocket, we can't get it, right? So we have shortages all over the place. I'm still dealing with some ramifications of that. We warrant our products. So some of the drawer slides that we would use during those times weren't our standard vendors. You got whatever you could get. Well, it wasn't the quality that we expect, but I need to ship a kitchen and I need drawer slides. We don't make the runners that the drawers roll on. So,
but you insure it in that if it's not working properly, you're the poor schlep who has to go out there and fix it.
Which that's the real cost is labor.
Were you able to go back to the manufacturer of those door slides and basically get a warranty from them?
No, of course not, right? Because at that point you were getting whatever you could get. You were importing
so that you can
to ship the product,
correct?
Right. So anyway, inflation really took a toll, right? And really it was the lumber came down by 23. That wasn't the issue. The driving cost was labor.
Yeah.
Every one of our staff members was getting offers to go take a job here for 10% more, 20% more. So overall, our labor cost raised by about 25% over a 3-year period. I mean, it really was tough. So because then we kept having to raise prices, and customers are saying, you gave me a quote a year ago, now you're 25, 30% more. Well, yes, because most of the cost of what we do is labor, right? So yeah, we have a 28% material cost of goods, but our true COGS could be 67, 70% because it's material and labor. So it's a huge driver. So we get through that, we stabilize. Now you have this tariff situation, right? So, the current administration, let's not get into the political side of it. You'll probably understand where I fall because it's really helping our business, right?
It's helping you
tremendously. So
you caught me off guard on that.
I'm a member of the Kitchen Cabinet Manufacturers Association of America. We have been pushing for this for now 8 years, right? So this is the culmination. We have been, the furniture industry in North Carolina has been decimated. These are hardworking individuals. Nobody talks about it. You get craftspeople, all of that offshoring to Vietnam, China, Laotia, Cambodia. That happened for 15 years. And jobs are just getting eviscerated from this country, right? So all the crafts, Ethan Allen, all of them outsource overseas. They do that for 15 years. Factory after factory after factory closing, right? So ghost towns along the Appalachian Trail, a lot of these factories are gone, right? Now, fast forward to, 2018, there are tariffs in place on cabinets. The Chinese are dumping cabinets into this country. the Trump organization back then did a 70% tariff on cabinets. So this is not new, right? This has been happening. It's just now it's in the news, right?
Right.
So it helped our industry because, our labor rates are way different than in those Far East countries. So now our business is exploding because you have this onshoring happening again. The cost to ship from the Far East is through the roof, and it's leveling out at like 30% tariff, it looks like, on China. What they've been doing is they've been manufacturing China, sending it to Vietnam, putting it in a crate, and saying it's from Vietnam, but it's really from China. So
Yes.
they can bypass 30%. So we've been fighting our industry for years with these anti-dumping, tariffs. And so I am a firm believer in tariffs, right? We need to protect the American worker, right? I need American labor. So all of a sudden our business is up 35% since January 1st.
Congratulations on that. You caught me off guard when you said I was tariffs.
So, and if you talk to auto workers, they would tell you the same thing, right? So Ford is feeling the same way. They're exploding.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
That's good. We're wrapping up on the amount of time that we have for this particular episode. There's no question in my mind that we're going to take a second episode and pick up where we left off. So thank you, and we'll just pick up. Thank you very much for joining us on Financial Planning Explained, and we'll be with you for the next episode with Joe Trave. Thank you. Thank you for watching this episode of Financial Planning Explained. We strive to provide an educational experience for all of our viewers, and what we struggle with at times is topics. So if there is an idea or a topic that you would like for us to discuss on a future episode, please email us at admin@maaplanning.com, or you may enter it on the Contact Us page on our website at www.maaplanning.com. Thank you in advance for participating and helping make our show successful.